use Bollinger Bands? How many of you have used it? I'm pretty sure everybody here has used Bollinger Bands. Probably didn't know how to use it correctly, right? But it's a wonderful indicator. I mean, it's another volatility indicator. It was developed by a guy called John Bollinger. I think he's still alive, which is not always that common when we look at indicators. But what he wanted to do, he wanted to create a dynamic price channel which followed the price, so it's used as a trend indicator, but also accommodated for volatility. So he wanted a two-in-one indicator that was going to help him kind of analyze volatility and the trend at the same time. Now, this indicator is made up of three bands. Okay, you got a middle band, which is a simple moving average. And then we got an upper band and a lower band, which are plotted 2 standard deviations away from this middle band. So because standard deviation is not fixed, remember standard deviation becomes more or less as volatility increases and decreases, right? So this is why these bands will become wider during higher volatility and narrower during low volatility. Okay. And if we look at it just at an illustration before we go back to the MT5 here. So basically we got our three bands. The middle band is the one that follows the price. This is just a 20 period simple moving average. This is what John Bollinger wanted. And then we have our upper band and our lower band, and these two are plotted 2 standard deviations away from this middle band. So let's say the standard deviation was $8 and your middle band was currently trading at $20, then the upper band would be plotted $16 above this middle band, so it would be at $36, and the lower band would be plotted $16 below the middle band, meaning it will be at $4, right? This is how it's constructed. This is how it's calculated. Now, if we go back to the MT5 here, now I'm going to leave standard deviation here, and we're going to apply our Bollinger Band. So once again, it is a trend indicator. So if you go to your trend folder under your navigator, you drag and drop this onto the chart, and you see everything here is standard. We've got 20 SMA. The standard deviations, it's plotted 2 standard deviations above and below the middle band. You can pick your color and you press OK. Right. Now, as you can see here, when we have low volatility, meaning low standard deviation values, your bands are quite close near each other, right? Implying that it's low volatility. But once we have increased volatility, and you can see this in the price action, big moves down, big candles, way more volatility than on average. This is when your bands start getting wider and wider. Why? Because the upper and the lower bands, they are plotted 2 standard deviations away from this middle band. So when your standard deviation shoots through the roof, these bands widen, right? So easy visually to see increased volatility, decreased volatility, as well as following the price quite nicely. Okay, so it's actually quite a very simplistic indicator, but it combines the best of 2 worlds together. Clear? Okay, let's continue. Now, the first strategy that we have with our Bollinger Bands, it's called the squeeze, right? And usually when standard deviation has very low values, your Bollinger Bands will come close to each other. They will squeeze together, and implying low volatility, right? I mean, when you have low standard deviation values, your bands will be closer or narrow to each other. And what happens here is that the bands become flat, right? They come near each other, they become narrow, they become flat. And basically here, it is implying that a big move is coming, right? We don't know which way, but nothing is going to stay in this state of low volatility forever, right? Something has to pop. It has to pop either to the upside or to the downside. We just don't know which way. So here, you will get a bullish signal if the candle closes above the upper band. this is your signal to perhaps go long, right? Maybe above the high of that candle. And usually it's quite an aggressive move because you're coming out of low volatility. Low volatility brings about high volatility. On the other hand, if you get a bearish signal, this will be due to a candle closing below the lower band. So this will now imply that a big move is coming towards the downside. So it's a fantastic way to capture a low volatile state. There's not many indicators out there that will give you this. All right, let's go and have a quick look. Now I'm going through these strategies because all of these strategies are built into our indicator.